Hey there, everybody. Welcome into this edition of Extra Time here in the ESPN FC studios. We got Frank Leboeuf, we got Stuart Robson, we got Shaka Hislop, and we got a guy reading questions.
All right.
First one from Nadim's Interior Decorator, a frequent contributor. For Frank, who was better in their prime, Robert Pires or Antoine Griezmann? Ooh.
That's a very good question. And can I make a little comment about Nedum's outfit
The lederhosen,
today
yes.
during the show?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. I didn't feel him very comfortable in that situation with the cheap, I don't know, like the typical, costume or suit, German suit. I felt he wasn't comfortable, but whatever.
Are you
So the
suggesting that
question-
Nadim Anua could not pull off the lederhosen? Are you saying he didn't look quite right there? I think he looked good.
Nah, he wasn't comfortable. I think he knew that he didn't look good. whatever. He tried to hide a little bit, but whatever. I have to go for my generation. Robert Pires made a huge impact when he played for Marseille. I played against him when he was in Metz, and then he signed for Arsenal. And I remember Arsene Wenger putting him on the bench and saying, "I want you to feel the Premier League before going into it." And what a way of learning the process and going into it. Remember that we were losing 1-0 in the final of the European Championship against Italy. And the last minute, Robert Pires got the ball and take on a player and gave the ball to Sylvain Wiltord. David Trezeguet to get the final goal. So he was crucial in many ways. He's a great player. No doubt that Antoine Griezmann had a huge impact for Atletico Madrid and the national team. But everywhere Robert Pires signed for, he was one of the leading player. It wasn't the case for Antoine Griezmann when he went to Barcelona. So it's why I think Robert Pires was better in his prime.
You always got to go with your guy, right? Whenever you're asked, you always got to go with the former teammate.
Yeah, but listen, I think also there's at the very least recency bias with Antoine Griezmann. And to Frank's point, while Griezmann didn't do that well at Barcelona, it's probably because you had guy Lionel Messi who plays in a very similar position, and you will always be second fiddle to Lionel Messi. So, but that's a good comparison, though. That's a good comparison.
Mr. Stuart Robson himself, for Mr. Stuart Robson himself, the next question. Which English
Rob will send this in himself?
lower league derby would you say is your favorite to watch or commentate on? Ooh, I like this one.
Lower league derby.
Yeah.
No,
Ooh,
that's an interesting
good.
one.
We're getting into the nitty-gritty here of football. I like this.
Lower league derby. I'm trying to think of one that...
Shaka, you...
Wolves West Brom is a good one.
Yeah, Wolves
is
West
not-
Brom. There we are. There's a big one.
Oh yeah, Wolves
doesn't really
are Premier
count.
League now.
Give me a different one. I want a real, lower... I want a...
I'm trying to think of a lower league. There must be
Watford,
some ones
Millwall,
up
maybe?
north. Blackpool versus Morecambe. That would be a local derby.
That is lower
They'd
league.
be
All
very
right.
close to each other, and they wouldn't like each other. That's for sure.
I like it. Need to get some tickets to some
Sheffield
of these.
Wednesday, Sheffield United.
There you go. Back in the day.
Here's a fact for you. I think it was one that game was probably the highest attendance ever in the third tier of English football. Sheffield Wednesday versus Sheffield United. I think it was over 50,000.
That makes sense.
See? There you
Makes
go.
sense.
Wow.
How horrible is the new Champions League format? Shaka, you want to take a crack at this? I don't hate it.
No?
You?
I'm still trying to figure it out. I'll be honest. I'm still... No,
Excuse me.
I'm old school, right? In that everybody plays everybody home and away.
Mm-hmm.
So this newfangled, we play this one home and we play somebody else away and somebody else, and it's just confusing to me. And I've sat and I've watched it and I've tried to figure it out and decide whether I like it or not. And I just kind of said, you know what? I'm going to see how this season plays out, and I'll pass. Well, not this season, but this half of the Champions League plays out, and just see how I feel about it. But it just kind of goes, to my opening point, it just kind of goes against everything that I know. League football is everybody plays each other once at home, once away. This whole conundrum about, some play some, and that doesn't make sense.
Robbo, you agree with Shaka, or are you ready to pass judgment now on the Champions
I
League
agree with
format?
Shaka to a certain degree, and I've done a couple of games already, and I went into the games thinking, if they lose this one, they've got another 7 games to turn things around. And I did the Atalanta-Arsenal game, and it seemed as though both sides were quite happy just to have a low-key game in the end, and it was a 0-0 draw. It didn't really explode into any sort of great action. But I just think that they feel as though there's more games to come, and we'll catch up eventually. And we only have to be so high in the table to get through to the next round. So there's things that I like about it, but there's things I don't like about it.
All right, one of the things that keeps coming up, certainly in questions around extra time, is the amount of games that these guys are being asked to play. In terms of having young players in a team like Barcelona, asks Alina, how important is rest and rotation? Hansi Flick said the best players don't rest.
You have the perfect person for that. It's Joe Robson.
Yes?
Speak about breaking into Arsenal at 17, Robbo?
Yep. Young players, how important is that rest and that rotation?
Well, I didn't have any rest. I got in at 17 and played every week up until I was 23, 24, and I played with injuries and sometimes had to have time out through injuries. And eventually it took its toll because I had an injury that nobody could actually get to the bottom of. And I had to eventually have a major operation and was out for 2 years. So, yes, if you don't have the right sort of rest, if you don't have the right sort of recovery after games, and you don't have, you're not playing at full tilt right from a very young age, because when you come into a side at 17, 18, your body, it might be different now, but my body certainly wasn't ready to play week in, week out. I'd come from school. Only 3 months earlier, I'd been playing for the school team, and I come to Arsenal as an apprentice, then sign as a professional, and play within 2 weeks of being a professional. And my body, we did weight training after about 2 weeks, and they were expecting me to do the same weights that players that have been doing it for 4 or 5 years, and it took its toll. So yes, you've got to have the right sort of sports scientists at the club, the right sort of physios to make sure players aren't overtrained and aren't overloaded.
You'd think if there was one club that should have learned their lesson in that space, especially how many young guys they have, it would be Barcelona. We'll see if they don't overuse the next generation. When you guys played, did managers speak glowingly of other managers? It seems that in today's football, there's almost a fraternity among managers, and they're very supportive of each other. Were managers more confrontational back in your day?
I think there were examples of that, but for the most part, managers kind of spoke nicely enough of each other. A lot of times after games, they'd go and have a glass of wine. Sir Alex Ferguson famously had an incredible wine cabinet, and they'd go and have a drink after the game, and kind of shoot the breeze for 10 or 15 minutes before you had to jump back on the bus and leave. That's just part of the course, and I think also the tabloid media, and I know social media has its say in how so much of how the game is consumed now. But back then when we were playing pre-social media, it was dominated by the tabloid media, who were just desperate for anything to sensationalize. So I think managers also knew to kind of be careful in how they interacted with each other, because these papers would just spill the most simple of things into some kind of a
Shaka, weren't you at Newcastle when Kevin Keegan had his rant at Alex Ferguson?
Yeah, I was. That was around. That was around. What's his name at Forest? Stuart Pearce.
Yeah.
Because Sir Alex Ferguson questioned whether Stuart Pearce, because Newcastle was going to play in Stuart Pearce's testimonial at the end of the season, so he questioned whether Stuart Pearce would fight as hard against Newcastle, given that we were going to be there at the end of the season, and Keegan lost it because he felt you don't talk about Stuart Pearce like that. There's nothing to suggest Stuart Pearce should be open to that kind of a criticism. But that was just Sir Alex Ferguson at his mind game best.
To the question though, we don't get those Keegan rants anymore, do we?
Not really,
or rarely.
No, but you do have you have Mikel Arteta moaning at, and I don't mean to be picking on Mikel Arteta, because let's be honest, it could be anybody. Moaning at referees.
But moaning at referees and going at another manager, very different things.
Yeah.
We're talking about real picking fights and stuff.
How long are you talking about? How long ago are you talking about? There was a game at West Ham, Upton Park, when Alan Pardew and Arsene Wenger squared up to each other.
Yeah,
that's right.
And there was another game when Pardew ran down the touchline and Joe Royle, who was manager of Ipswich, he ran and celebrated, and Joe Royle got up and he wanted to knock Alan Pardew out at the time. I think Alan Pardew was the common denominator, maybe.
Or Arsene Wenger. Arsene Wenger was a common denominator in some managerial rivalries as well.
What Rob was saying is, ever since Alan Pardew stepped down, managers get along really well.
That's right. For Shaka, is Szczesny the perfect fit for FC Barcelona as goalkeeper?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. If Barcelona were looking for a goalkeeper on the cheap in the summer as cover for Ter Stegen, Szczesny was the perfect candidate then. Szczesny played every game for Juventus, or just about every game for Juventus. He was Juventus' #1 last season. And then goes out of contract and Juventus moving in a different direction. Still 34 years old. I think Szczesny, and even though, yes, when he finished at Juventus, he said, that's it for me. I think...
That doesn't worry you at all? Like, once a player makes that decision, bringing them back in?
No.
No?
No, not this soon after. Again, you know, listen, if he makes that decision and he does nothing for a year, then we're having a different discussion. You know, Szczesny, I thought, given the situation right now, Szczesny was the perfect choice. And to what I said, in the summer, if you're looking for a number 2, you look at either Szczesny or David De Gea, who of course went on and signed for Fiorentina. But once he does, now you're looking for somebody out of contract. Perfect fit.
Let's talk equipment. This question comes from Dan's fancy dress shorts, which Frank is obviously a big fan of. Did you have a specific routine for breaking in new equipment, kit, like boots and gloves? Frank, what did you do to break in your new boots back in the day?
Oh, wow. I remember before using them the day after, I was spending the night, the evening out, putting them in a hot water and my feet in, watching a movie with those boots, and then taking them out and putting newspapers in it for the entire night. Then I was able to use them because I was taking a half-5 shorter boots to make sure that they really fit and I could feel the football. So yeah, I had that routine every time.
Frank, what cleats did you wear back in the day? What boots did you wear? What brand?
I started in France with Adidas because I was playing in Strasbourg and the factory was in Strasbourg and the sponsor was Strasbourg. We didn't have, before coming to England, I didn't have any individual sponsor. Then I signed with Nike, and then I tried some different brand like Lotto. Came back to Adidas, and I had George Weah. We had his own brand. And he offered me to go with his boots, and that was very nice. I remember having the George Weah's boots. That was great.
Selling shoes by putting them on a defender.
And now, of course, I'm with Skechers.
Strategy.
Yes,
and now I'm with Skechers, and Harry Kane is wearing them.
Do Skechers make cleats?
Yeah,
no? They do.
Yeah, Harry Kane wears.
Oh, really?
Skechers
All
cleats.
right.
Yeah.
All right, let's get a box over here to Seb. I still play, you know, I'd take one.
Well, make your plug, Sebby.
There you go.
Make your plug to.
There you go. Send them to ESPN.
You can have some
here in
freebies.
Connecticut.
You can have, if you're nice, you can have some freebies, my dear Sebby.
Let's go. Frank Leboeuf, my favorite French player of all time. There it is. That's where we'll wrap up this edition of ESPN FC's Extra Time. Thank you to Frank. Thank you to Robbo. Thank you to Shaka. And thank you to you for sending in those great questions. ESPN FC, 7 days a week. Don't miss a single episode.